Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Marketing and Communications Coordinator with the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. And today I'm joined by...
Kristina Rose of Kristina Rose Photography.
If you have been listening along, you know this is Kristina's second time on the podcast. So before we dive into anything else, many of you know the first question I usually ask is, what does success mean to you? But you've already answered, what does success mean to you? I'm going to ask that instead, since we've last met, has success changed any for you? Have you had any learning moments or growth moments that have changed your view of success?
Honestly, listening to what other people said in their interview that you did with them, how they were, I think it was Courtney and Janelle both said, success means to me being happy in my job. And I maybe said something similar to that, but it doesn't have to mean, a six-figure whatever, but just being happy. I think that people underestimate that. And it just makes me happy that other people in our area think that too.
I really like seeing that. And I think that there's something to it that so many people do see that as success, that I think the culture of what work means to people is slowly shifting.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I would say 20 years ago, it was all about the run, the grind, everything. It was about how much money you made and all of those pieces. I think COVID had a huge shift for people where they realized, wow, I'm doing a lot of work and I'm not getting to spend a lot of time with these people around me. I need to refocus.
I know. I actually love seeing the videos where people put up boundaries with their jobs. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, I'm the person that answers to the person that puts up the boundaries. When you're your own boss, I'm like, well, I can put up that boundary, but that doesn't make me any money. So
Yeah. I'm going to put up that boundary. Am I going to respect myself enough to do it? I don't know.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, so the other thing we talked about that I said I was going to check in this time is, you set a goal for you is to start working on connecting more with larger brands. How has that been going?
Well, first of all, that was just basically a second ago is what it felt like. No, but what I have realized is that in order to do that with larger brands, I think, well, I'm pretty sure that I just have to be purposeful on social media about tagging them. Like, how are they going to know I exist without doing that? And then I definitely said this in my other one, is setting myself up for when they find me. So if I work up my social media content, which is, I know that I need to be better at it. I don't feel like I'm bad. I feel like I'm really fantastic at it for local marketing.
Right.
I do feel like if I want to branch out for like international or just across the country stuff, I've got to be really out there a whole lot more. So I actually have been planting little seeds in the way of like working, with just an online thing, an online coach, but not like official class where I'm getting one-on-one, but joining like a larger group of people with a challenge and stuff like that. So hopefully you'll see some more posts from me.
Hope so.
Very soon. And that's how I want to focus to get, because it's still a goal.
Yeah.
I still want to travel and work for Adidas. Again, we'll say that again.
So something I saw recently that was kind of talking about that is doing doing a spec shoot, setting down and going, oh, I'm going to do what I would do if they had already hired me in marketing for their, an ad campaign. And that way you've got something that they can look at and go, oh, because the other thing I learned recently, and it was specifically talking about this, was Apple's not going to change their brand for you. If your material and what you're already making and all those things isn't already aligned with that brand, doesn't matter how amazing it is, Apple's not going to change.
Yeah, no.
So,
I like that idea. See, this is why people need to sit down and have conversations about stuff, because we're all reading different things here and there, and other people are feeding into us in different ways. But if we don't sit down and chat with each other and hear the other side of things, I think we're missing out on stuff. So thank you for that. I love that little tidbit.
Anytime. I agree with you. I mean, I think collaboration is such a huge aspect of being able to push anything forward. If it's just you, eventually you're getting in an echo chamber, and it's like not really all that helpful.
No.
There have been things in the past that I was like, I know this is good, and then I went back, and now looking at it 5 years later, I'm like, I should have talked to somebody.
Yes.
Well, all right. So, in that vein, we want to talk today a little bit about your recent blog post, and I want to focus in on the marketing aspect of why it's okay to be different, and why you should be different and not trying to emulate necessarily. So, do you have any pieces you want to talk about on that blog post? I mean, people go read it on her
Yes.
website.
It's really good. It's good. I used that piece, I used that same blog post as a drive for a magazine that I'm involved in. And so my little headshot is me, like in the magazine, my ad is me making a weird face like, is is your phone not ringing off the hook? And the hope is that they'll go to that blog post. So we'll see. That's not even been out that long. But so that's my little way of being just a little bit different, besides just the headshot of, smiling and, oh, look at me, look at that person who's a photographer, whatever. Just something to catch somebody's eye, because I don't think that just the same old is going to work. And one of the things, I read a book, and I will butcher his last name, but I feel like it's Mike Michalowicz. He's authored several books that I've read, but one of them was actually called Be Different, or I think it was called Be Different, but he's the Profit First guy, and The Pumpkin Plan. Those are all really good books of his, highly recommend. But one of the people that he kind of talked about in the book was the Savannah Bananas. Have you seen them?
Yes.
That's one of
my
their
hometown.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's one of his clients.
Oh, okay,
and friends,
cool.
Mike, who wrote the book. But the guy came to him and said, I've got this baseball team that I'd really love to do some stuff with, but we're not getting any crowds. So what can we do? And if you go see them on TikTok or others, I mean, it is hilarious. I couldn't care less about baseball.
Right, yeah.
But they are entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I can even add to that before they were the Savannah Bananas, they were the Savannah Sand Gnats. And I remember going to some of their games when I was a child, and there wasn't much of an audience. I mean, it was like any other baseball game, and when they came in, they changed things. They changed some of the rules. So if anybody's familiar with baseball rules, what are you doing here? But no, really, it was instead of on 4 balls, instead of it being a walk, they do a sprint, which is they will run to as many bases as they can, and the outfield has to pass the ball to every single person in that field. And once they do so, then they can get the player out. They do a dance almost every at bat.
Oh, yeah.
So they do a lot of stuff that just speed it up, but to interact with the audience. And I've seen a lot about him talking about it, that he was just like, we made it fun and we made it its own thing. They're on a national tour right now and sold out
selling
stadiums.
Out baseball stadiums.
Yeah, which is wild to me. And they're now 3 teams actually in Savannah. They're all under the same thing, but I think it's the Savannah Bananas. There's the Fire Starters or Firemen or something like that. And there's a new team that I don't even remember. But yeah, it's crazy how much that changed.
And I think that that's really neat. Now, obviously, that's on like a huge level where they were, but locally speaking, I think that we are all so used to seeing and doing the same old stuff, the smiling headshots. And those are fantastic, but we're talking about true nitty gritty marketing that stops the scroll, stops the page flip, stops the people who are walking by or driving by these big billboards and stuff that you have. I mean, what are you doing that's different? Because if you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, you're going to get, you're fighting a losing battle, because you have to make yourself stand out. Now, what that means to you and your brand is different for everybody. Obviously, it was an easy thing for the Savannah Bananas, but I just encourage people to do something different if you're using photography, since that's my specialty, in your marketing. What is going to make this stand out a little bit more? What is just going to catch somebody's eye because you really only have like 3 seconds to
Mm-hmm.
catch their eye. So sometimes that makes people uncomfortable when I push the envelope a little bit because we're so used to what will people say? What will, that might get attention. I'm like, isn't that the goal? Like, don't
Yep.
even, and you want to attract your ideal clients. So what would you do that would be a little bit different that would catch their attention?
Yeah, to me, if it screams you, it's okay that there are going to be some people who look at it and that's not them. Great. They're not your client. They're never going to be your client. But the people that see it and get that, I mean, I love the idea that flipping through a magazine and I'm seeing an ad for a photographer, and instead of it being just something basic of, I can take your photos, here's me with a camera, there's that aspect of, if I can laugh, I'm all in.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Like, you make me laugh, you've got me on the hook. I'm a client now. So in looking at that and taking those steps, how does someone start to break it down? How does someone start to identify what their brand is?
Oh gosh. That's such a huge question.
I know.
Let me so okay. Well, I think first of all, taking a look at the people who connect with you would help, right? So you may be saying to yourself, "Oh, I want to reach, women in their 30s." Well, if you're selling products that don't necessarily align with what women in their 30s want, it's not really going to matter if your marketing is one way or the other. You need to figure out, okay, well, maybe women in their 30s isn't my marketing. Maybe it's more like in their 50s or 60s. So switch up the marketing to answer to them for that brand. But I think that it's just looking at some of your top clients. So go back, depending on what you do, and if you're able to do this, how your business is laid out, like who were your top 10 clients last year and what did they like? And then build on that. That way you'll be able to see what similarities they have and then be able to pull, because if they were good clients, you want more of them. So who are those people? I always look at brands. I know brands, obviously, your logo, your colors, your all that stuff. But I always look at brand as more, I guess, from my standpoint, like your personality. I speak a lot and work a lot with entrepreneurs and small businesses. And I think that way it's pure relationship building. So that's kind of what I look at when I look at somebody's brand. Like, who do you want to connect more with? Did that answer the question, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good starting point, I think. And
that's a big one.
It is. And I think even in that, I mean, obviously you can tell that the two of us have that if we laugh, we're going to go for it. But if that doesn't fit your brand either, that's okay. Like, we're not telling you to do it if it doesn't fit your brand. If your brand is, I need to sit here and be stoic and look professional, cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah. I certainly am going to have a harder time probably buying life insurance for someone who's like on the phone and doing those things.
Yes.
So we get it.
That's true. I know. Yeah. You want to think about what you're talking about and how to connect with people. But like, you can still do that through stories, and not everything will make people laugh, but you can always make them feel.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to laugh. Sometimes I might cry and still love you.
That's true. Yeah, we were just watching a show the other day, and Modern Family, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it. We were on an episode where we're really looking at Phil and his dad and their relationship, and Rachel goes, "Man, they really cast him so well." And she looked over at me, and I was on the verge of tears, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it." And then the scene happens where you find out his dad has died. And she was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yep, that's where we're there." And like, emotion drives so much of what we do on a daily basis. It's totally okay to lean into that. I mean, that's just a part of it. All right, you had such a good quote. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll get back. I'm going to ask about some faux pas, if you will. If a picture says 1,000 words, what is yours saying? Kristina Rose Photography is here to help you, helping your business stand out from the crowd.
Sometimes it's hard for you as a business owner who already wears so many hats to find the time to create the never-ending need of images to promote your business. There's so many avenues that need your attention, and you don't want to just be more noise in the world. Even your marketing team will struggle with the inconsistency. Beautiful photos on your website and social media attract attention. Your potential clients will start to notice. So what if you had a collection of professional images ready to go at a moment's notice? You'd feel less stress, more prepared, and most importantly, more professional. That's where Kristina Rose Photography comes in. With photography for your business, Kristina Rose helps empower small businesses, entrepreneurs, and professionals by creating images that help grow their brand and save them time. It's time to elevate your brand with Kristina Rose Photography. Go to krosephoto.com for more information. That's krosephoto.com. Back to the episode.
All right, we are back, and so looking at these faux pas, I'm going to kind of approach it by a couple of methods and get your walkthrough guidance in a way. When people are taking a picture at their house or social media that is maybe for their business, maybe it's just for their personal thing, what are things that people are doing wrong? What are those, the lighting, the camera angles, those things that...
what everything.
Yeah, what everything.
Well, no, people don't know what they don't know.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and our cameras are good on our cell phones, but it does have limitations. And when I spoke at the Women's Leadership Conference, I think that putting people's headshots, I'm saying in quotes, that they used when they were either first starting their business or maybe their company doesn't really value that. And so they're just like, stand against this wall. Let me stand 2 feet from you and hold this phone in front of your face and let me take your picture, right? That versus what it looked like, same person, basically same outfit, everything, when they came into my studio and we took a real headshot. I was actually just showing that to say, wow, this is what a wide angle lens does to you. Isn't that insane? I don't even think you guys knew that. But honestly, I didn't think I didn't even anticipate the audience looking at and being like, connecting with it so much. I guess that they have already seen that in themselves. And so I probably had a good handful of people already contact me because they were like, that's what my picture always looked like. And being able to see the visible difference, they were like, I'm going to need to sign up for one of those sessions. So that actually worked really well for me. So that was fantastic. But I think too is the faux pas is underestimating how important that is. Mm-hmm. Like that's what people connect with. So they're seeing this version of you that's not really you. And one thing and this is just me being silly me. I just had a headshot session a few days ago with a guy and we were going through the pictures of everything that he took. And for some reason in my mind, and it comes to me so quickly and it's probably because I've done it so much, but I do sit with people and I'm like, oh, this picture says, hey, you know what? I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm just here to listen. Or this picture says, hey, I'm here to sell you a house, or, whatever. But we were scrolling through and we got to this picture and I was like, hey guys, can you show me the beer? For some reason, that's just what that picture said to me. He died laughing. He was like, I got to have that one just for fun and games. But I don't think we underestimate, like maybe it's a slightly good picture, maybe it's a funny picture, but what people are actually seeing what they are saying to themselves, what's their internal dialogue, just like I do, when they see those pictures of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it could be different for each person. Obviously, you want it to connect the most to your ideal client. But having somebody else look at those pictures for you is just key because we are not very great at judging our own photos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that you need someone else's opinion. You need someone else's eyes on things just because you're not going to always realize it, you know, especially when it comes to marketing and pictures and things like that, because intention doesn't matter. What matters is how it comes across. And so no matter what I do, it's really hard for me to take something I've created and go, okay, let's remove all intention behind this. What am I going to see as a person? That's why around here, almost every time I create something, I'm like, hey, Marissa, hey, McKenna, like, can you come do this? Sometimes I'm like, hey, Steve, but he doesn't look at everything, so
I
it's
know.
fine.
You already live in your brain.
Yep.
And that's what I think is so important about what you put out there, because yeah, you do know you. And you can see, you know more than those few posts that you put out there. I don't think people understand that everything that we put out there is getting viewed and judged. And I guess that's maybe another faux pas. Like, they underestimate how much that's happening.
So in that vein, what do you think is the importance of looking at social media on your personal page versus your professional page? Like, is there as much of a separation as people think there is?
Your job is not your brand,
Mm.
right? So you may be doing your job really well, but people are going to connect with what you have out there. Now, I know for me, there's just stuff that I have out there that's public. Even if you're like not really my friend, you'll probably still see pictures of my family. You'll see things that I've shared. There's just public posts out there that I'm really okay with, right? I don't think that they are polarizing or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I don't do any of that. But I have, even locally speaking, had people come up to me who, maybe somebody suggested that they work with this company or whatever. Well, this has actually happened. So people come up to me and they say, what do you think about so-and-so? And I'm like, well, they're great. They've got this business that does X, Y, or Z. And I think it's a really great business. And that person then says to me, I don't know. I went to their Facebook page and I'm not sure that we would align very well. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe you're right. But that doesn't negate the fact that I do think they would work well together.
Mm-hmm.
But that already made a polarizing thing out there that like limited both of them, really. And this has happened more than once. And I think, especially as we move into an election year, that it can happen more and more. Just being, I'm here in Montgomery County. I mean, we basically bust at 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know about the listeners, but I can't afford to say goodbye to 50% of the population of Montgomery County,
Right.
So
yeah. I think that, I mean, granted, it's something I had to learn along the way, because I used to be incredibly outspoken about everything. And growing up, feeling differently than my parents and things, I was always posting. And then at a certain point, I was like, this is limiting so much, because my personal opinions should not have any bearing on what I'm going to be doing on a work-wise. And I don't want that to have that first impression to be, oh, I don't agree with them, and so that's going to impact the rest of our relationship. First impressions last forever. You can change, you can work on things, but it's never going to matter if they have 3 seconds to see you and that's all that they're going to take away. And yeah, especially in an election year.
Yeah.
I think one of the funniest comments I've heard made along those lines was, the only color I care about is green. And I was like, well, you're right. Everybody's money spends the exact same.
Okay, that took me a second. Yeah, me too. Me too. I can't. I mean, I am open and can work with anybody. And I feel like everybody else is probably the same way. When it comes to work environment, I think that we should all be able to work together in some way. But I think that it is time for a lot of people, if it's important to you, and if you are a small business owner, or like have employees, that it might make a difference, that it's time to examine what we put out there and what is public. And even if it's not quote unquote public, I would argue if it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah, there's very, very rare circumstances where you put something on the internet and it's not able to be found.
No, yeah.
I mean, I pointed this out back in January. I sat down with a group of students up in Pennsylvania, and part of their curriculum for this semester was, all right, we are going to be reviewing each other's social media so that we know when we go, they're all planning to go to New York for theater and things. But like when people see our profile, we want to make sure it's curated and it does the message that we want to do. And I pointed out, if you go to ChatGPT right now, I think even you can do this on the free version, and you ask it to tell you about a certain company and to give you information about their website or their social media, it can pull up things that are not otherwise publicly accessible. Even if you're, for example, I pulled up a web page for a company that it's just not published. Like you could tell it's like an upcoming events thing that's never been updated because it still has like all the Latin in there and all the
Oh,
pieces,
yeah.
but it's still publicly accessible because it exists out there. And that can be said for pretty much anything. I've got
Yeah.
one profile I know that's private, and I'm like, how did that person like that? How did they see that? I don't use this anymore. Even, oh, here's a really good one. I was told in case a couple of weeks ago, there's a realtor here who was like, yeah, I'm trying to make sure that when I Google Blacksburg Realtor, my name comes up. So the other day I did it and my name didn't come up. But you know whose name did come up, Alan? Yours. And I was like, I was in real estate for 2 months. 2 months and I called it quits. But I still show up as a Blacksburg Realtor. So no matter what you do, it can and will come back at some point. I mean, it just will.
Interesting. And on the flip side, though, that can also be okay.
Yeah.
Because depending on where you are in your business, you want to attract the people that you want to work with. So if you're okay with that, what you have out there and making sure, you just have to make sure it aligns with the people that you want to attract.
Mm-hmm.
And be okay with it pushing away potentially some people that you may want to work with, or people, it could work in your favor in pushing away the people that you don't. So just examining it, and maybe not just yourself, but having somebody help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone you trust, but having someone look at it again, you need that second opinion, different from yours. So going back to looking at the pieces, obviously people should come to you for their professional headshots, but when they're doing stuff on their own, they've got their phone out. What are some of those pieces that you think people just don't realize? Because you mentioned a little bit about that wide angle lens. For those who have no idea, what is a wide angle lens?
So if you are taking, it's hard to explain this without using my hands that you cannot see unless you happen to be watching the video. But if you take a lens and it's just a circle, you can only see through it as much as it will allow you to see through it. Well, wide angle lens extends that circle but doesn't pull back or anything. And so in order to do that, it has to extend the outer sides of the photo or the room. That's why when you see like real estate photos, and you may go to the space, you may think, oh, holy Christmas, this is a lot smaller than I thought it was, which is fantastic for rooms, right? Mm-hmm. You want the rooms to appear bigger. I've never in my life said that about my body. Right. You know what I mean? I do not want people to say, oh, wow, Kristina, you look ginormous in this picture. So that's what a wide angle lens does for you. But if somebody is taking a picture of just your face and they're pretty close, mm-hmm. you can kind of correct some wide angle lens type things if you step further away from your subject. But if you're pretty close to your face, which you are if you're using your hands for a selfie, that means whatever is in the center and closest to the camera, it's going to extend. So that's why maybe your nose looks a whole lot bigger, or you just look at it and you're like, is my forehead really that huge? That's what a wide angle lens does to your face.
Mm. Yeah, I've got the perfect example if anybody wants to come see it. I believe around this time, our member magazine should be coming out, and you'll notice the picture that is on the cover of Slate Creek Builders that shows the building that they have. I took a couple of photos of that building with a wide angle lens, a 16 millimeter lens that really does expand out. You can see a lot of good landscape, really good architecture. The minute people stood in that, their legs became like 50 feet long.
Yeah, it does that.
That's part of what it's for. And it's got its own use. There
mm-hmm.
are things where you can use it. But yeah, I mean, you said, I don't know if it was on the first podcast or if it was at the Women's Leadership, but you're usually using a 70 to 200
Mm-hmm.
millimeter lens when you're shooting
Yes.
stuff. Why is that?
Because that will make you look more like how you look in real life. Simply put, I guess. So I stand far away and bring myself closer to the subject in my camera with my lens, and that just kind of compresses the image to make it look more like it does in real life. It's a whole lot more flattering.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree. And so your phone is capable of so many of those things, but I only learned recently that there are 3 different built in when you're using your phone at that 0.5, which I think we've all done when we're like, oh my God, there's so many people, I can't get them in this picture. That's a 13 millimeter lens, really wide angle. When you're at the 1, you're at a 28 millimeter lens, which is still really wide. I don't know that we do anything that's portrait that's lower than 35.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, but then you can get up to, I think it's like 70 is the longest, but I don't know about you. When I do the ×3 on my phone, it does not look like a good picture.
Yeah, and I think we're used to seeing it, and until you can kind of see the side by side, I think it's kind of hard to understand, and it's even more helpful to see the side by side of yours because and it's also what is closest to the camera too. So if you have your chin up a little bit and that makes your chin closer to the camera than say your forehead, all of a sudden that part of your body looks significantly bigger even though it's not.
Right.
So
it's just an optical illusion.
Yeah. And again, I feel like if people are listening to this, they're probably like, what? It's like you can't picture it. So hopefully we can share some pictures. If not, you could come to another one of my branding workshops and you can check it out and see it.
Not that we're plugging anything here, but well, all right. So kind of final thoughts in this realm with marketing, and specifically the title of this blog was What You're Doing Wrong in Marketing Is. Is there anything else that you want people to kind of take note of and think of? Not even just in a like, hey, come see Kristina, but in a general information that they need to know.
We are in a small community, right? And I think I feel pretty confident in saying that even if you happen to be the more expensive person in your area that you serve, whatever it is that you do, maybe you might be a little bit pricier than some others. If you connect with people, I think that you can still nab them because people will want to do business with you because they like you. And another thing that I talk about in the blog post, which I hope you guys go read it, is to tell stories. And I don't necessarily mean always about your products and always about your clients, because people want to know you. They want to stop by your store because they like you and not necessarily because of what you sell. Because again, your business, you are not your job.
Yeah.
They want to come see you and they'll connect with you over a product.
Yeah. I sent you a video a little while ago and that made me think of it, which is no matter what you do, you will never be the cheapest option out there. There's always going to be someone that is willing to undercut and do it for cheaper. No matter what you do, you are never going to be the best out there because there's always going to be someone better, but there's not going to be anyone else who can beat you. So just be you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Let me know or let us know where people can get in touch with you, where they can follow you on social media, all of those things.
So my website is krosephoto.com. And at the bottom of my website, you'll find a link to all of my social media. So again, that's krosephoto.com. And then I think that I'm probably easily accessible on Instagram. And then I share things to Facebook, but Instagram, you do stories and stuff like that. And I don't think Instagram is as popular here as it is. Facebook is more popular, but you can find me more easily on Instagram. And that's just Kristina Rose Photography with a K, Kristina with a K.
Awesome. Well, any final thoughts? Anything you want to share? It's okay if not. I know.
I freaking love talking about marketing with people and just hearing people go to talk about their problems or talk about their thoughts about how they're marketing their business, for some reason, it's so much easier for me to chat with them about, and I feel like other people would feel the same way. It's easier for me to chat with them about their business than it almost is for me to put my own head in my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing it. And if you ever want to have coffee or lunch, not just you, I'll do it with you too, but you as in the people who are listening, shoot me a message because I would love to. I think it would be really fun.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's so hard sometimes when it's your own situation. It's kind of like everyone's got that friend who's really, really good at relationship advice, but is never in a relationship.
Yeah.
And you're like, how or why? And it's because they're not burdened by the problems that you are. It's easy to go, oh, here's a solution when you're not the one doing the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, listeners, for checking in. We will catch you again in 2 weeks. We're coming up on the point where I'm going to stop saying 2 weeks, and we're actually going to weekly this summer. So that's exciting. But for now, we'll see you in 2 weeks with our next guest. In the meantime, go out, connect, engage, and prosper.